Super Progressive, what is good? The legends keep joining us on the Super Progressive podcast because this week we are joined by Deep Dish. Yes, Sharam and Dubfire, two of the most legendary figures in our underground scene. This interview came just minutes before they took the stage at Skyline, and they were maybe at the hotel, the Radisson Red, where Skyline is in Glasgow, for maybe 10 minutes. That's it, before they took the stage, and they made time for an interview with me. Now, we talk about a lot of interesting things in this interview, but obviously there were so many things that we didn't get to touch on. One of the main things that we didn't have time to talk about was the Yoshitoshi label, their label with all those legendary releases. But I am just grateful that they made time for me at all. We talk about Global Underground. We talk about how they met, their origin story, a lot of great stuff in here. I hope to meet up with them in the future for a much longer interview. But most importantly, I just hope that you learn something new from this interview and that you enjoy it. So yeah, here's the episode. Let's go. Super stoked to have you guys here at Skyline. We're here with Deep Dish, Dubfire, Sharam. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, all I gotta say is this. It feels like the biggest story of the past year in our underground scene is you guys touring together again. Everyone's super stoked. I've seen the gigs you've been playing. Massive dance floors all around the world. Tonight you're playing to 250 people.
Yeah.
In a rooftop sky bar in Glasgow. What's it like for the opportunity to play for such an intimate crowd, and do you kind of bring a different mindset than compared to all the other massive dance floors you've been playing for?
Yeah, I mean, like for anybody that's been DJing as long as we have, I mean, there's a completely different vibe when you play for like an intimate gathering of people. Like, the BPMs tend to be slower. You can play a bit deeper. You tend to take more chances, especially tonight, like where we have like a 5-hour set. We're pretty free to explore, all the different genres that we've always been into, And in many ways, Deep Dish has always been an act that's been kind of in between genres as well. Like we've never, no one's been able to like box us into a particular genre, and we've always liked that. We kind of keep people guessing, and we're able to play like different genres very easily by not having like an assigned genre that we gave ourselves. So it's typically the press or the fans or other artists that tend to put us in a box, but we've never wanted to have those restrictions for our sound. And so playing along, club show, intimate, gives us that freedom to move around freely, between genres.
Yeah, definitely. I think it almost comes also from the era of DJing where you guys started from.
Yeah.
The DJ that I look up to the most and have been able to build a relationship with is Danny Tenaglia.
Sure.
Very much another DJ who can't be defined by genre. One question I have for you guys is if you can kind of fill me in on maybe the origin story of how your sound made it out of Washington, D.C. Because I associate you guys with Washington, D.C. Another artist I associate with Washington, D.C. is BT. Both of you guys. Your sound went all around the world. But what was that like original, how did that happen initially? Like how did your sound initially get embraced by first maybe the scenes in New York and other scenes like that in America, but then around the world?
I think we were like...
we used to go to New York a lot to buy records. So we were heavily influenced by all the New York... we used to go to New York record stores. We used to just drive up to New York and go buy records from Vinyl Mania, and Bleecker. And we got to know those guys really well. They would give us...
Dance Tracks. That was another one, Dance Tracks.
Yeah, and 8-Ball.
8-Ball Records, yeah.
So we used to go to these places and absorb music, like just absorb everything. And then we were like, one day we want to have our records. Like they had this wall of like the top records in the city. And some of them that would have only like 10 copies that would get, everybody would fight over it. And we want to have our records up there. And when we made our first record, and we were in touch with the guys at Vinyl Mania, they were like, yeah, your record is flying. It's one of the records on that wall. And it was like, my God, I can't believe this is happening. And so that was like kind of inspirational for us. We were just like absorbing things and then try to recreate them in the studio and sort of put our own touch into it. But I think where we came from in DC, DC was not like a musical mecca per se. You know, we had like Go-Go, we had like some bands like Fugazi. It was like a huge underground like house scene in Baltimore especially, and you know some in DC. The majority of the clubs were commercial clubs. They were like Saint-Tropez, kind of like you know European, like you know a lot of like Middle Easterns. That would come in there. You have to play all kinds of music to try to like entertain the dance floor, and I think without us realizing it, that kind of influenced our music in a bit, along with all the underground stuff, along with the Detroit stuff and Chicago stuff, where our music became a little more accessible to the masses, without us really realizing we're doing that. So I think that's how I think DC kind of like influenced us. I mean, DC has a very strong underground scene, but it also has a very strong, for lack of a better word, commercial thing, like a VIP club. They were doing VIP parties in DC before it was hip to do them like anywhere else. Like even in like Ibiza or like Vegas, DC was a mecca for that stuff. A lot of like dignitaries and their kids would go, you know, would go to clubbing, and they were influenced by the European style of music in America. So any DJ would have to know how to navigate that. So I think that's where we kind of like somehow found an imprint of making our style of music that catered to both underground and some of the more like, you know, crossover people.
I mean, back then the culture was very localized. Like there was, you know, what was happening in Chicago, there was what was happening in Detroit, New York, New Jersey, London, Paris. We at the time, you know, didn't travel the way people travel today, and the culture isn't as connected globally. It wasn't connected as globally back then as it is today. So, you know, like we would drive to New York and New Jersey usually, and we would go to all the parties and meet all the DJs. And like Danny, for instance, like he became a mentor to us. Carl Craig became a mentor, and you know, while we were influenced by our surroundings, which was Washington D.C. and all the music that was happening around that time, we were equally influenced by what was happening in New York, Chicago, Detroit, and I think we were always, you know, keeping an ear to what was happening in Europe. And when we started to produce music, I guess our music had a more European kind of angle to it. That's why it was embraced first, you know, in Europe, and then I think later people in the States, you know, because also the culture, the dance music culture in the States was quite behind what was happening in Europe. But it wasn't until we blew up in Europe that, you know, we were accepted stateside, so to speak. So that's kind of like how it happened with us. It wasn't like we made it in America and then, you know, our sound got exported around the world. It was the complete opposite, which, you know, to this day, a lot of bands, I mean, you know, we were talking earlier today about Oasis and how they're doing their, you know, kind of victory lap tour right now. They're still trying to crack, you know, America, and that's actually their goal on this current tour. So it's a tough market, you know.
Well, it's cool. This history of this music is this exchange between America coming over to Europe, coming back, and it's this constant exchange. Really cool.
Yeah.
My family has deep roots in Washington, D.C. My great-grandpa was the sports writer for the Washington Post for 70 years. Another personal connection I have to you guys is my cousin Ned Shepard introduced me to the Global Underground series, introduced me to all this music, got me to start this podcast. He produces music with Sultan, who I felt like you guys kind of broke onto the scene with your Global Underground 25 Toronto mix. You featured 4 of his tracks on like a 22-track compilation. Insane. To me, of all the Global Undergrounds, that one sounds like it's still so fresh and so embraced by the clubbers 22 years later, 2025. I know I'm jogging your memory here, but what was kind of your approach to the track selection of that mixed compilation at that time? 2003, really interesting time in progressive underground, kind of straddling analog, digital, all the different sounds going on. I felt like that mix really reflected that.
It's always about timeless music. Like these compilations that we put together, we always looked at it like we're not making this for other DJs. We're making it for people who are not particularly familiar with our style of music, and can they listen to it? Can they put it in the car and go for a drive to another city, or nowadays, like, get on a treadmill and get lost in music? And for that, we look to have timeless pieces of music in there. And I think Sultan and Ned, I mean, those guys, they're like bands, they're like songwriters. They're, it's like they're classically trained kind of musicians that understand song structures, emotive lyrics and melodies. So it was like an easy choice for us to put those things, because it made it easier for us to tell our story. So that it's always about timeless music. Now, of course, you put some tracks in there that are very obscure. They're just for the energy to drive. But mostly, those compilations, I think, are about timeless music from all kinds of genres. Like Ali said, we never put ourselves in like one, sort of like a pigeonhole. There's like techno records in there, there's like house records in there, there's progressive stuff in there, there's all kinds of music. There's like rock influence records in there. And we still kind of we never lost that. We still do that in our sets. We still do that in our own new productions.
Yeah, and then just talking about your other Global Underground compilation briefly, 21 in Moscow, different side of things. That one felt like its importance. Obviously, it's one of the greatest mixed compilations ever, super embraced by the clubbers. Mm-hmm. The timing of it made it an even more important mixed compilation, because very divisive times. The first, I'd probably describe it as like one of the first big mixed compilations to come out after the events of September 11th. Mm-hmm. Given your background, how important of a project was that, and the timing of its release for you, beyond just the music, but as a call of unity for the greater global dance community?
Moscow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was 10 years after the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
pretty much. That's when we were there. I mean, like if you look at all the Global Underground compilations, they were sort of they captured the essence of that period of time, musically, politically, culturally. So, for us, when we look back at the track listings, or sometimes we get tagged with the cover, and somebody puts the audio of one of the songs on it. Immediately we're taken back to that time period, and it was a really magical time. It was also a really creatively inspiring time, where all the producers whose music we put on these compilations were influenced by so many different genres. A lot of those artists, probably all the artists, like really represented our ethos, and our perspective on diversity and being like musical chameleons. And I guess that's why we gravitated towards those tracks that, really, kind of stood the test of time and are as loved today as they were back then.
I get PTSD just talking about this stuff. Those compilations were like a pain in the ass to make, man. We spent an insane amount of time perfecting those. I just like all this conversation. I'm like, shit.
I got
because the early compilations were done without any technology, Pro Tools or all the technologies that we have today.
Get the mix right.
Yeah, so if you screwed up the mix, and we were doing it on I remember a Radio Shack realistic. That was their brand. It was a really cheap mixer.
We did that. Penetrator Deeper and House We Trust, Undisputed, and maybe one Cream Separates. We did those on two turntables on his bedroom's floor with a realistic Radio Shack mixer. That's literally, and then we had to do it in one take. There's no editing and none of that stuff. You gotta, from beginning to end, it had to be perfect. So you go 68 minutes, you make a mistake, you start from the beginning again.
It's brutal, because I was at Danny's house when he was doing his Global Underground 45 Broken. I'm like, holy shit, he's putting so much work into this. The track list, the selection, and all he's saying is, you have no idea how much easier this is than 20 years ago when I was doing Athens or London. It really interesting to think about. Last question I have is, you guys kind of have this chemistry, and I think most people in our scene, when they think of back-to-back, it's something that they view as one of the most difficult things to do, is to kind of flow flawlessly with another person artistically, especially in the booth. Now, you guys are a collaboration. It's not so much a back-to-back. But I'm curious in the technical side of things. how do you set up your DJ booth in a way to make the musicality between you two flow seamlessly? Because you kind of do have, I wouldn't describe it as like an orthodox setup. For anyone who just DJs would step up to it, they'd see like, what the hell is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll let you know later tonight.
Yeah.
we're doing the first time we're doing just USB DJing.
Oh, wow.
Back to back, yeah. So
Yeah.
hold that thought.
It's there's a lot of technology involved, but technology's come a long way. We're linked by Ethernet cable, both of our laptops. Sharam has also continued to play on Tractor platform with a laptop, just like me. We may have different, controllers, but we pretty much play the same that we've always played in terms of the gear. That allows us. I mean, we have the same tools that kind of a USB CDJ DJ does in terms of like the number of decks. But in some ways, we have like maybe even more decks like within Tractor than the average USB DJ. And that's just it's another tool that allows us like more creativity. We do harmonic mixing. We layer different tracks on top of one another, and it's been nice, and we're still in many ways getting reacquainted with playing together. That's why we actually look forward to doing these long sets.
We're introducing DJ reading glasses.
Yeah, it is too funny.
Yesterday at Brighton, I couldn't see because the sun was shining like directly. You couldn't see the monitor, and also I couldn't see. I'm like, I'm just guessing what I'm gonna play. Like I'm just going by harmonic mixing. He's like, "What are you, 7/8?" I'll put 7/8, just drag a record in. Like, okay, that sounds good. I had no idea what I was playing because I couldn't see. So
the
that's
idea,
the next technology.
I mean, a lot of DJs. I hear a lot of DJs like, you think that the sets are carefully mapped out, but many DJs are winging it. They're going in, with various playlists, but you never know what kind of an audience you're going to get. Certain things like the sound and the atmosphere, whether you're comfortable in the DJ booth, all these things, all these variables influence how you play. And so, we go in with kind of a roadmap, but it's very loose, and we allow the vibe to kind of dictate how we play. Sometimes he'll play like 3-4 songs in a row, and I'll just kind of hang
more
back.
like you.
And sometimes it would be me.
Most of the time it's him.
Yeah, but it's always it's organic.
You try to put that on me on camera. Nice.
Well, I'm super stoked to see. It's my first time. I just discovered this music 4 years ago. Been learning the history of it for the past 4 years. My first opportunity to see you guys.
1 me, 3 him. That's the history.
That's a good name actually for it.
Super stoked, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks at Balance, which is going to be another insane weekend.
Amazing.
So thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, man.
Yeah, I'll see you.